Ever wondered how elite runners set their goals? No, they don't use a magic 8-ball, though that would be quite amusing. They use something called SMART goals. Yes, you heard it right, it's as smart as it sounds. Let's dive right into it. Goal setting, it's a bit like deciding what to eat for dinner, isn't it? Let's say you're hungry and you want to eat something. That's your goal. But you can't just stand in the kitchen aimlessly hoping food will magically appear. You need to decide what you're going to make. That's like setting a specific goal in running. You can't just say, I want to run faster. You need to decide how much faster, and by when. Now imagine you've decided to cook a gourmet meal, but you don't have the ingredients, the skills, or the time. It's not going to happen, right? That's where the measurable, achievable, and relevant parts of SMART goals come in. You need to set a goal that's not just specific, but also something you can measure your progress towards, something that's achievable given your current skills and resources, and something that's relevant to your larger objectives. And finally, the time-bound part. Imagine you've decided to cook this gourmet meal but you're not sure when. You keep putting it off, and before you know it, you're ordering takeout. Again. Similarly, setting a deadline for your running goal ensures you actually work towards it. So there you have it. Setting goals in running is not that different from deciding what to eat for dinner. It requires thought, planning, and a bit of realism. And just like you wouldn't expect to whip up a gourmet meal without the right ingredients and skills, you can't expect to achieve your running goals without setting them smartly. So, the next time you're deciding between pizza or pasta for dinner, remember, even elite runners face tough decisions like these, albeit in a slightly different context. So, what does SMART stand for? Super Magical Athletic Running Technique? Not quite, but that would be quite the acronym. Let's unravel this enigma together, shall we? The S in SMART stands for specific. It's not enough to say, I want to run faster. Faster than what? A speeding bullet? A sloth on vacation? Being specific means setting a tangible goal like, I want to shave off a minute from my 5K time. Next up, M for measurable. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So instead of vowing to run more, define what more looks like. Perhaps it's running 4 times a week instead of 2. Now that's a measurable goal. The A in our acronym is for achievable. Here's where things get a bit tricky. Achievable doesn't mean you should aim to run to the moon. Unless you've got a rocket-powered running shoe we don't know about, it's best to set goals within your reach. Maybe it's running a half marathon instead of a full one for starters. R stands for relevant. Your goal should align with your broader ambitions. If you're a sprinter, setting a goal to run a marathon might not be the most relevant objective. Instead, you might aim to improve your 100 AM dash time. Finally, we reach T for time-bound. A goal without a deadline is just a dream. Whether it's 6 weeks, 6 months, or a year, setting a time frame keeps you accountable and motivated. So instead of saying, I'll run a marathon, say, I'll run a marathon in 6 months. So we've cracked the code. SMART isn't a secret society of runners, but a clever way to set goals. And remember, the key is to keep these goals flexible. After all, life is a marathon, not a sprint. So keep running, keep setting SMART goals, and most importantly, keep having fun. Now that we've demystified SMART, are you ready to set your own goals? No, you don't need a crystal ball for this part either. Let's dive right in. First, let's start with S, which stands for specific. Your goal shouldn't be vague like, I want to run faster. Instead, aim for something concrete like, I want to shave 30 seconds off my mile time. Specificity is key to making your goal tangible and real. Next we have M for measurable. This means you should be able to track your progress. If your goal is to run a marathon, break it down into smaller, measurable milestones. Maybe you'll start by running 5 miles, then 10, 15, and so on. The satisfaction of hitting these milestones will keep your motivation high. Now let's move on to A for achievable. This is where we can have some fun. So if your first thought was to outrun a cheetah, let's rein it in a bit. While it's great to aim high, your goals should be within your grasp. Unless you've been secretly training in the art of superhuman speed, it's best to keep your running goals human. R is for relevant. This means your goals should align with your broader life goals. If you're a busy parent juggling work and children, setting a goal to train for a marathon might not be relevant or practical. Instead, a more manageable goal might be to run a few miles every other day. Finally, T stands for time-bound. Set a deadline for your goal. If you're aiming to run a half marathon, set a specific date for when you'll achieve this. Having a finish line in sight will make your goal seem more attainable, and will give you something to work towards. And there you have it, your very own SMART goal. Remember, it's not about being the fastest or the strongest, but about setting a goal that's right for you. Remember, setting a goal to beat a cheetah in a sprint might not be achievable, unless you've discovered some superhuman powers we don't know about. Setting goals is all well and good, but what about when life throws you a curveball, or in runners' terms, a sprained ankle? We've all been there, right? One minute you're gliding along, the wind in your hair, the next you're on the ground nursing a twisted ankle. Or perhaps you're in the middle of a fantastic sprint session when, out of nowhere, a dog decides to join the fun. And by fun, I mean a high-speed chase that would put an action movie to shame. But that's the thing about setting goals. They're not set in stone. They're more like a sketch on a drawing board, ready to be erased, redrawn, and colored in as you see fit. Because let's face it, life happens. Dogs happen, sprained ankles happen, and when they do, it's important to be flexible. Now, I'm not suggesting you should start training for the dog Olympics, although that could be a fun side goal. What I'm saying is that setbacks are part of the journey, and sometimes they can even make your goals more interesting. Imagine the story you'd have to tell if you managed to complete your marathon training despite being chased by dogs every other day, or if you bounced back from a sprained ankle to beat your personal best. Now that's what I call a plot twist. So when life decides to play fetch with your running plans, don't get discouraged. Instead, use it as an opportunity to reassess, to adapt, and to come back stronger. Maybe you need to switch up your running route to avoid that pesky dog, or perhaps you need to incorporate more ankle-strengthening exercises into your routine. Remember, SMART goals are not just about setting achievable targets. They're also about being specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound in your response to challenges. So, even if a dog interrupts your sprint session, don't worry. SMART goals are here to save the day. So, we've sprinted through SMART goals and you're still here. Don't worry, there's no final sprint required. But let's jog our memories a bit, shall we? We've been on quite a journey, and it's important to remember what we've learned along the way. We started off by unveiling the enigma of elite runner goals, remember? We discovered that these top-notch athletes aren't just gifted with speed and endurance, they're also masters of strategy, and their secret weapon is setting SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Then we dove deeper into what makes a goal SMART. Not all goals are created equal after all. We learned that a vague aim like "I want to run faster" won't cut it. It needs to be something more concrete, like, "I want to shave off 30 seconds from my 5K time in the next 6 months." We also discussed how to set your own SMART goals. It's not about blindly copying the elites, but tailoring these principles to your own abilities and aspirations. Just like customizing your running shoes for the perfect fit, your goals should be personalized for you. And then we hit the reality check. Goals are not wishful thinking, but achievable targets. They need to be challenging, but within your reach. It's like aiming to finish a marathon, not win an Olympic gold medal on your first try. Now imagine setting your running goals as planning a fun marathon. It's not about reaching the finish line in record time, but enjoying the journey, the scenery, the cheering crowd, and of course the satisfaction of crossing the finish line, knowing you gave it your all. Remember, setting SMART goals is like planning a route for your run. You wouldn't just start running without knowing where you're going, would you? And if you enjoyed this run through SMART goals, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more running content.